Welcome back to Milan Recording Studios. My name is James Pavel Chakras, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at Yamaha's $50 keyboard. I paid $59.95 for this instrument with my own money, including shipping. So this is by far the most affordable instrument I have ever reviewed on my channel. As my channel has progressed, I've gone from reviewing high-end acoustic pianos to lower-end acoustic pianos to high-end digital pianos to mid-range digital pianos, and now to the very cheapest instruments available, because everyone has said on many of my videos, this is great, but I want things cheaper. And that's what people said in my last video, well, not my last video, but one of my recent videos where I reviewed a $100 keyboard from Casio. And many people said to review something even cheaper, and today, that's what we have here on the table. This is the Yamaha PSS-F30, and as I said, it basically costs $50, which is insanely cheap, and I'm very curious as to how much of a musical instrument is it going to be, and how much of a toy is it going to be? Is there actually going to be some musical value here for a young, beginning musical student, or will there be very little at all? Considering it's Yamaha, I'm expecting it to be decent for the price, but it is only $50, so we will have to see. Let me get this out of the box and hook it all up to my recording system, and then we'll dive in and check it out. So now we have the Yamaha PSS-F30 out of the box, and as you can see, it's absolutely tiny. It's a really tiny, lightweight keyboard that can be run off of 4 AA batteries if desired. I'm actually running it off of a USB cable that's being plugged into the wall, because you can also do that, which is pretty cool. And to record it, what I'm doing is using the headphone jack, which is then outputting to a splitter. Half of that splitter is going to an amplifier so I can hear what I'm doing, because when you plug the headphones in, it mutes the internal speaker, and then the other half of that splitter is sending a stereo signal to my recording setup. So that's how this instrument is being recorded, for those of you who are wondering. And if I power this instrument on, you will see that the only indication that it is in fact on is this simple little light over here, the screen. So the user interface of this thing is relatively simple. And the user experience is pretty pleasant. As far as the speaker is concerned, I didn't actually demo them in a couple of my other previous videos about cheap small keyboards, and I'm not going to in today's video, but I will tell you approximately how it sounds, and frankly, for the price, I'm actually pretty pleased with how the internal speaker sounds. I think it sounds a lot better than the one that was in the Casio CTS-200. Obviously, it sounds like a small speaker. It's not going to sound amazing, but it doesn't sound terrible. It doesn't, crackle. It doesn't, distort at high volumes or anything like that. Not that I heard. And for a small $50 keyboard speaker, it actually seemed to be pretty adequate. But I do have it running through an amplifier, a Roland KC350, which of course is making it sound better, but it's not altering the sound for you guys. You guys are hearing the direct line output signal. But I should probably talk about some of the flaws that I have found with this instrument, because obviously I always talk about the positives and the negatives of the instruments I review. So the positives of this are that it's cheap and small and cute, but there are a few little negatives that may affect some of you. So one of the negatives, and I'll touch on this later if I remember, is that it doesn't have a damper pedal. It doesn't come with a damper pedal, and it doesn't have any option to insert a damper pedal. There is a sustain option if you hold this function button and push the lowest C, and that kind of gives you a faux damper pedal kind of an effect. It just sustains all the notes. But that doesn't really work too well for many different types of things. So that is a little bit of a downside. This keyboard, I believe, is geared towards like children and teenagers and stuff who beginning pianists aren't using the damper pedal, so it's probably not a big deal for many people. But that is something I found, that there is no damper pedal, and there's no way to put a damper pedal in this instrument. Now, as far as the action is concerned, this is kind of fun. A while back, I think my previous video on ThePianoforever was a video of a $250 digital piano that split in half in the middle. And that also had like an unweighted spring, key bed, kind of like this one does. Except the difference is that key bed was atrocious. It felt horrible. And you'd think that for $50, which is what this costs, it would feel worse than a $250 keyboard. And that is not true at all. This key bed is actually very playable, and I have no real major complaints with it. The only two complaints I have are, one, that the keys are very small, so it's easy to hit wrong notes, and the other complaint is that the key it's easy to double strike the key, because the key doesn't have to come all the way up before you can make it play again. So those are the only two flaws with it, and for $50, I think that's pretty good. It's very playable. I don't have any major issues playing it, other than those two small things. And it's actually fun to play. I'm not going to lie to you. It's actually fun to play, and I'm genuinely surprised about that. The other thing that you may know if you listened to that video of the $250 splitting piano is that the sounds on it were also atrocious. And once again, you might expect that a $50 digital piano would have even more atrocious sounds. And while not all of them are very good on here, and they all are cheesy, some of them are actually relatively pleasant to listen to, and I'll play some of those for you in a bit. When you first power this on, it defaults to a piano sound, which unfortunately is one of the weaker sounds of this instrument, but is nowhere near as bad as that $250 splitting keyboard I reviewed a while back. So I'm going to play a little bit on this instrument. Another downside to this is it's only 3 octaves. You have 1 octave, 2 octaves, and 3 octaves. If it had 4 octaves, that would open the doors to a much wider array of music. And so you won't really hear me playing a lot of proper pieces on this because there's not a lot of pieces I can play. A, because there's no pedal, and B, because there's not enough keys. I can't even play Bach on here. I run out of keys for Bach, and that's a first. But I will do my best to play some chords and some melodies and do some improv and play pieces of music where I can to demo some of these sounds, because honestly, it's pretty worthy. I think for $50 it makes a fantastic toy and actually is a relatively satisfying instrument to play. It's actually kind of fun. So let me just play something on the piano sounds, and we'll figure it out as we go along. So that was a little attempt there of my treble test piece on this instrument. As you can hear, the lack of a pedal definitely does kind of hinder that performance, but other than that, I actually can play that piece on here, and it actually will work. I won't run out of keys for that part. So you can see there how well that octave shift feature over here works as well. Although you would benefit greatly from an extra octave of the actual keys, this can kind of help you to pretend you have more keys than you do. So I octave shifted down for the second half of the piece, and I got by with that. So that's pretty cool. However, strangely enough, in my opinion, on this keyboard instrument piano thing, the piano is actually kind of the weakest sound, and there's a few others in here that I think are a lot stronger, and we'll get to those in a bit, but I just figured I'd demo the piano sound for you guys there. There's 4 different variants of the piano, although technically there's only 3, because this last one here is a harpsichord sound. So let's check that out real quickly. I'm gonna run out of keys there. So you definitely can see that this is not really meant for professional level music, but I don't really think I even need to go there, do I? It's obviously a entry-level instrument made for children, but with a little bit of practice, you probably could play professional level music on here and not play wrong notes, but even then, it's not really made for that. But I don't really think I need to say that. I think that's pretty much a given. In the next category here, we have electric piano sound, which often are a strong point, especially with Yamaha keyboards and others. This one, not so much, but they still sound alright. So as you can hear, definitely not the greatest imitation of a Rhodes you've ever heard, but also not the worst I've ever heard. It's not offensive by any means, in my opinion. A couple of other versions of electric pianos in here too. And then up next are a few organ sounds. oddly enough, and I'm actually kind of impressed by this, a $50 instrument has seamless sound switching, which is a thing some flagship digital pianos don't even have. And what that means, for those of you who don't know, is when you hold a note down and then switch to another sound, this note stays held. Right? So I change organ sounds, and then when I play now, it'll be a different organ sound, so that's really cool. That's actually genuinely impressive for a $50 instrument. The accordion section I think is kind of weak. I'm going to skip over it and go to the guitar section, which has a couple of cool ones in here. That low end down here is pretty nice to listen to. Pretty cool. So we've got a few different guitar variants in here, and then you've also got some basses as well, starting with sound number 25. There's a few of the different bass sounds in here, and then up next we have the strings pads, which are, of course, a little bit cheesy as well. Although this one's pretty cool. Pizzicato strings is always a favorite of mine, and that one's kind of fun. What else is in here? Ooh, nice violin. And then you've got the double bass there too, so that's pretty cool. Actually kind of like that one. Now up next here we have probably my favorite sound in this whole instrument, which is the first one in the woodwinds category, and it's the flute. And of all things on this instrument, you wouldn't think the flute would be the best one, but I think the flute's the best one. Like, that reverb is genuinely pretty. It's actually really cool. And the light action makes it easy to play trills, so that one's really fun. There's a few other good ones in the woodwind sound as well. Like that one, which is basically the first one shifted up an octave. Got a few others in here too. So honestly, in my opinion, these are pretty fun sounds to play with. They're obviously not the highest quality sounds, but it's a $50 instrument. And I think for $50 here, you have a lot of fun sounds to play with and a lot of just interesting different things to mess around with. This next category is the saxophones. which honestly doesn't sound half bad. Some of the other ones in the saxophone section are a little bit weak. That was pretty cool. So you've got a few different sounds here. Then the brass section here too. That one's cheesy, of course. Trumpets. And a few other types of things. French horn. Up next is percussion, which is pretty fun. You've got some nice stuff in here. That's actually a vibraphone sound, but it works pretty well for that little ditty there. Got marimba, I think, up next. Yeah. Obviously not a great marimba sound, but I just love the marimba, so I automatically love any marimba little sound patch. Up next is the synth category, which has some fun things in it. Ooh, this one's weird. Ooh. I actually really like that one. That one's pretty cool. 65, we're still in the synth category. That one's cool too. And then up next we have world instruments. So this one sounds like a woodwind type of thing. Like a pan flute. That's an ocarina, I assume. This is a banjo, I guess. Wish I knew like banjo repertoire on the piano. That might be kind of cool. That's like a kalimba. So you got some cool little, you know, interesting instruments in here. And then up next in the next category, the world category is very big, by the way, 68 to 89. Okay, so this one here is like an Indian tabla kind of thing. And then you've got a second register of a different sort of the same thing. But you can't, there's no higher tonic, so you can't complete the harmonic minor scales. That's kind of weird. So that's pretty cool though. What else is in here? Just percussion. Ooh. So basically what you have here is a highly affordable instrument that is actually playable, that you can actually make music on, and that actually has some really cool features. And the reason I'm saying actually is, once again, to reference that $250 thing that I bought a while back, the splitting keyboard. That touted to be something amazing, and it was absolutely horrible. This just advertises itself as, hey, it's a keyboard, and it's actually really fun. But I haven't even gotten into some of the best stuff here. So first of all, a feature I think is cool. Again, this is a $50 keyboard, and I'm kind of blown away I can do this. It actually has an included metronome. I mean, some people would pay $50 for a metronome in itself, but yet this actually has a metronome, which is amazing. So if you wanted to practice your scales or something, you know, on the go, on a D major, on a D major, on this with the metronome, you can do that with a $50 instrument, which I think is awesome. You can also even change the tuning, which you might see here, so you can actually increase and decrease the tuning of the instrument, which is pretty neat. Sadly, holding down the key doesn't seem to increase it, but you still can change the tuning, which is pretty cool. So let me just get back up to 440 where it's supposed to be, and then so that's pretty neat. You can also transpose here as well. This is the sustain button that I showed you earlier. So there's that, and there's a few other things hidden in the keys that I will get to in a bit. And one of those has to do with the songs and styles, and this I think is really pretty cool. Typically when I review a digital piano, I usually don't go into the demo and the, you know, the self-playing abilities that some of these things have, but I figured I would for this one, because I think, in my opinion, that's a big selling point of this, that it's only $50 and yet it can still do this. So what the song style does is, as I said, when you hit this, it will move that little dot over here to indicate that this keypad is changing things in this category and not the voice category. So essentially what you have here are a few different like pre-recorded songs that are actually pretty cool, and then you also have styles. Now styles are essentially a rhythm plus a backing chord that you control with your own, that you control yourself. So you can push a single note and it will play that scale degree in a given key. So you can actually change the key here, you can increase and decrease the amount of sharps and flats that it has. So if you wanted to, you know, jam out in the key of F, you can easily do that, and then any key that you play here will be from the key of F. If you play something outside of the key, it will be outside of the key, but if you play anything in the key of F, it will be that proper chord degree, which is pretty cool. But first, let's check out a song. I'm not going to listen to the whole thing, but we'll just play the first little bit of it. It's pretty cool, the demo song here. And it actually sounds like that may have been done with the actual instruments in this, which is pretty neat. So one thing that I think is pretty cool is that the songs, the demo, and all these other songs here are actually made with instruments, the sounds that are in this instrument. So if we take a listen to number 2 here, the orchestra one, it'll count us in and then play here. You can hear this is all made with the instruments in this piano thing, and it's actually kind of nice to listen to. So I think you could legitimately make music with this as a fun challenge or something. You know, just use a $50 instrument and create an entire piece of music only using that instrument, which I think would be a kind of a fun challenge. And I'm sure that someone out there has done that. So those are basically the songs. So those are just pre-recorded songs using the instruments in this instrument. But the style is where things get really cool. So if we go over here to 101, which is our first style, what happens here is the lowest octave becomes chords. So with that, when you hit start stop, it introduces a drum beat, and then you can play along with it, which I think is really cool. So this could totally be useful for someone who wants to perhaps learn how to, you know, maybe do a solo or something with a single melodies, you know, a single note at a time in the melody, and just simple stuff like that. It's really actually fun. So let's give it a shot here. We'll play in the key of C for a bit, and then we'll change the key in a bit. as you can see, even though this isn't like the highest quality of musical instrument, there's still education possibilities with this instrument. You can still learn how to do things that will apply on musical instruments throughout your musical career. So I think that's really cool that you can do things like that. Just to show you how the key change works here, if I hold the function button down, you can see up here it says SP1, SP2, 3, 4, 5. So that's changing the amount of sharps. It's increasing sharps. That's what SP stands for. If I go back the other way, it'll say FL, and that'll increase the amount of flats. So if we wanted to, we could play in the key of E flat with 3 flats. Doing octaves on here is not a great idea because I keep overshooting and trying to play a bigger octave than is necessary. So that, you know, the smaller keys for me do kind of hinder me at times. But for a young child, I think this would be absolutely wonderful. So kind of as a recap here, honestly, I could sit here and just play with the style thing all day. It's honestly really fun. And there's all kinds of different styles too, styles of styles. So you've got swing and jazz, dance and disco, all sorts of different stuff. Just for fun here, before I go, let's go to the voice. Let's go to the synth. Let's go to 60. We'll choose the first synth sound here, which was this one. Shut it down an octave. Oops. And then let's change keys. We'll do F. We'll do in the key of F major. And then we will go to song styles and we will hit 122 for the first dance and disco styles. Let's do a little improv with the styles here in the key of F major with a kind of a disco theme here. You can change the volume, by the way, of the song and styles because I think this one's kind of loud. So that's just a little taster of the styles. I think that is honestly very fun, and I think for a young musical student, or even someone who's a little bit older, and a lot of the marketing for these instruments, Yamaha shows what appear to be like teenagers using these. I think even for someone who's a little older than a child who wants a really cheap entry into learning music theory and learning note names and scales and chords and how all that works, this would work for that, interestingly enough. And I think that that's honestly pretty amazing that for $50 you can get a usable musical instrument that not only is fun to play, but also has some musical value as well. And I think that is what is truly incredible to me about the PSS-F30. So I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this review of the Yamaha PSS-F30, which has the highest honor of being the lowest priced instrument I have ever reviewed on this channel so far. And I'm very happy to say that even though it is incredibly affordable, it is actually not terrible at all. Obviously, I don't really need to say why it's cheesy and why it's obvious that it's a $50 instrument, but for the price, I think honestly it's pretty awesome. And the reason for that isn't the same reason that I'd say something like the Korg SV2 is awesome, right? It's a totally different type of thing. You're not going to expect it to be super high quality. But what the value of something like this is and I think I said this earlier in the video, is that someone can simply, easily, cheaply get their feet wet in the music world without worrying about breaking the bank. And I've mentioned throughout the video that, I was like, oh, kids this, kids that, kids would like it. And I do think that it is its main market because of the bright colors and the tiny keys. But an adult or an older, person, like a teenager or something, could totally use this as well if someone's interested in maybe learning the piano. Like, maybe I'll try it. This would be an awesome instrument to do that with. It's only $50. You can get in here to learn the names of the notes. You can learn how to play scales. You can learn with the style thing. You can learn how to, play along with other people, playing along with yourself. But it's the same idea. You're still learning how to play over chord changes and do that type of stuff. And so there's actually a lot of value to this, surprisingly. Now, as far as piano technique, doing dynamics, playing classical music, that is something this is incapable of doing. You heard how terrible I played that Bach fugue. It's not meant for, anything really beyond playing 3-4 notes at a time, really. However, I think it definitely does have its value, and I think there are certain things about it that make it really, really amazing. And another thing that's awesome about it is just how light and easy it is to pick it up and move it around. You've got the battery bay on the back here that, as I think I said earlier, it has room for 4 AA batteries. I don't know how long it lasts on 4 AA's, but I think it will last a very long time. You've got a simple speaker in here that probably wouldn't do you very great if you're sitting next to a busy road or something. But for around the house, it works just fine. And it's a simple, easy keyboard to move around and to use. And I think for $50, I honestly think it's wonderful. I'm so surprised I'm saying that, but I really do. I really think it's wonderful for the price. So I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this video of the PSS-F30. I don't really think that there's any keyboard instrument cheaper than this that can be good. If there is one, it's probably from Yamaha, but I believe this is Yamaha's cheapest digital piano. If you guys have any suggestions of cheaper instruments to review, maybe I'll put one in a video at some point. A lot of you guys had said to review a roll-up piano. I don't think I can make a whole video on that. I don't think there's enough content about a roll-up piano, but I like the funny comments. But if you guys do have any suggestions of other affordable entry-level digital pianos that you're interested in seeing me review, kind of like this one, definitely let me know and I will consider your idea. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, you might want to go check out my channel. Lately, I've been doing a lot of these affordable digital pianos, but if that's not quite your cup of tea and yet you're here at the end of the video, you can always go check out my other content too. I've recorded and made videos of high-end concert grand pianos and higher-end digital pianos and very high-end digital pianos as well. So all kinds of stuff is featured on my channel. And if any of that sounds cool, you might want to think about subscribing. And if you do that, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.